and welcome back to the weekend spread. This is the Schooner Pod's college football podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Howard. With me today, we've got Jameson, Maxwell, Ty Lee, and the captain, Bowden Blake, sailing on in. And folks, we've reached pretty much the definitive end of preview season. That's right. We're stopping. Normally, we stop at the Big 12. This time just means more. We're ending up with the SEC. OU has a new home, new digs, and a new format for the SEC preview. If you followed us before on this, with the Big 12 in the past, what we'll do instead of the sorry,
I've completely just sidetracked Bobby by saying, does Bobby need a mic check?
I tried to do both. I tried to do both. I fixed it. Better. That's fine. No, but in the past, we've just kind of gone over unders. This time we're doing the full shebang, top 10 out of 16. So guys, throughout this entire offseason, we've been noting how weird the new state of college football is. And, here we are with the SEC. When y'all were filling out your top 10s, at least for me, it really kind of hit how weird this season's going to be. What do you think, Jameson?
No, honestly, it just felt nice. I thought this was a lot easier than doing the Big 12. I thought this was a pretty straight. I think I only had one. Maybe the number 10 spot was the hardest spot for me, but it was just nice, not having to talk about a bunch of mid programs in the Big 12 the whole time, right, Blake?
Nope, not mid. This is the conference of question marks, in my opinion. We got, these are names that we've heard before, but besides Georgia, everything else is an unknown to me. How is OU and Texas going to react playing kind of a more difficult schedule week to week? How is Bama going to react to not having Saban as the helm? Are teams like Tennessee, Mizzou, LSU, Texas A&M, ones with obvious flounder in the past? How are they going to do this year? I think it's a really interesting conference, and what it separates, I think, when you talk about the Power 2 conferences, when it comes to them in the Big 10, is this one actually has some interesting wars at the top. I don't think Georgia is one of one. They are going to be the only one to win it. I think they are, not to spoil, but I think things are closer between this pack. So I'm very excited for the SEC, and that's very rare for me to say.
Ty, your thoughts?
I've got a lot of thoughts based on what we just heard. It's weird because Blake and I, we are the noted ball knowers on this podcast, and then we have Bobby and Jameson here, sort of for context, how just to show how much more ball Blake and I know than the average person. And Blake will agree, Jameson especially, his intro was egregious. The fact that you think that the SEC is clear cut just shows me that you are but a little sheep eating out of the hands of the networks that feed you these things. Jameson.
I can't be confident.
You can be confident in your picks. It's just I don't think it's clear cut. I'm very confident
clear cut in my brain.
Picks, these were not. Yeah. Okay. Well, this
clear cut. I don't know about clear cut.
I think
there's some jockeying going on here.
I don't know
what y'all are talking about. I feel very confident in my picks.
I think the 10's solid.
Okay, but those are two very different things.
We're not going to get Central Florida completely left off of a top 10. Nobody's been.
Might happen.
Yeah, we'll find out. But Ty, I'm sorry for interrupting you. Any final thoughts before we?
I remember Blake said something that was just crazy, and I've forgotten, but I know that the lovely viewers and listeners have not forgotten, and they agree with me. This man is crazy, and it's frankly, it's not right that we have him on the podcast. We spread his craziness with the world, but we will continue.
All right. Without further ado, let's dive into our rankings. Jameson, who do you have as your 10th team in the SEC?
I've got Brock Vandegrift in the Kentucky Wildcats, baby.
Good pick. Good pick, Jameson. I also got Kentucky at 10.
Blake shaking
Oh
his
God, this is just a classic. This is a classic brain trust ball not knowers over here coming together with collective idiotism.
head. No, it's
What?
down to it, Blake. I was between Kentucky and Auburn. I think they're the two in contention at 10. And Kentucky plays Auburn at home. So I think they take the head-to-head whenever they have the home field advantage, and I think that that's what gets them to 10. Yes, I understand a lot of their offense ran through Ray Davis, and that was a big thing for them. And I'm really curious how Brock Vandagriff is actually going to be anything. I bet you it'll just get overblown for what his star rating was, and he's probably going to be a very average quarterback. But Kentucky is steadfast, and I believe in them at the 10 spot to take over Auburn's spot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I like them at 10, mainly because I feel like they've always been kind of consistent, and now they've gotten a pretty easy schedule. I feel like they have 4 games that I think that are pretty much a lock to lose, but I think they only lose those 4. Overall, I think Kentucky just, you know what you're going to get out of them. They're about a mid-table team, and this is where they're going to end up.
Oh.
Yep,
Just talk, Ty. You don't have to.
No,
rate
I have a quick
Bombs
question.
are going to
It's
fall
not-
out with Kentucky.
No. It's not organic to the pod. It's a like a programming note question.
Please.
Is this a football one, or are we doing the basketball?
It's football.
Kentucky basketball is just plummeting too. So
We're doing the
BYU
football
guy.
one, and you guys have Kentucky.
yeah.
Okay,
They're
all right. Back to the
steadfast.
action.
They're on. They're back. They're always there, man. They're always there.
They're back.
Yeah,
I just
key
can't
games
believe
here. Go ahead, Blake.
you're putting faith in Brock Vandagriff, a guy who has not been able to bust through at Georgia, where Georgia's paying guys big money to be backups, and they didn't even want him. Nobody wants this guy. Nobody. He's going to be below average. He's going to be worse than Devin Leary last year. We're going to see, I think, tremendous drop-off by this Kentucky team. Mark Stoops trying to leave in the offseason. That offensive line maybe not as good as they originally thought.
Did he try to leave? I
Yes,
think
he
it's quite the opposite.
Yes, he had the offer on the table for Texas A&M, and Texas A&M revoked it after the fans went nuts, and they ended up with a Mark Stoops type again. They just ended up kind of with an adjacent version of him, but this is insane. I think Kentucky's going to really fall off this year. I was not. I see it in Auburn a little bit. If you were going to put them there with some hype, there's just no upside. There's no upside to this pick. They have 4 games that are probably guaranteed wins, 4 games guaranteed losses.
That gets them a 10.
Yeah, at 10. We're looking at 10. The schedule is what gets them at 10.
Yeah, but this conference is good. That 10 is still a really good team. The way the SEC works with the amount of FCS games that they play, it's the conference that's going to get the most of the bowl games basically. So I think there's better teams behind them.
Okay, Blake, well, who do you have at 10?
I have the Florida Gators.
See, this is why all of this gabbing, all of this yapping you got going on, I don't get it.
Because I choose teams with upside. I see something a little bit in the potential, in the vision that can actually get them there. Kentucky, at best they hit what you think they're going to do and going to get at 10, but it's going to be worse. Florida could be anywhere. Florida could be number 1 in this conference. They could be dead last in this conference.
Oh my God.
What?
They could. They could.
Please.
They've been
Blake, man. Let's run through their SEC schedule. Keep in mind.
No, that's what I'm saying. No, they are so. This team is full of variability, and that's why I love it. Okay, you got Graham Mertz as quarterback, who I don't even think this brings me back to my Anthony Richardson days. I don't think he's going to be starting by the end of the year. It's going to be DJ Lagway. I think DJ Lagway is going to take
okay. Wait.
In the
Hold on. So you're saying the starting quarterback will get kicked out, and they're still your 10th team?
Yes. Because I have vision, Bobby. I don't just tell whatever the little previews tell you, the little depth chart tells you. I see in my mind, I'm simulating the season, how I see it goes out. I think DJ Lagway's legit. I think he is. I would love to see him play.
Florida's going to have a mid-season coach firing, and they're going to just plummet and win 4 games.
That could also happen. I'm not ruling that out because, as Bobby said, the schedule is it's probably the most difficult I've ever seen in my entire life. So not to be reading schedules, but if we're gonna read one schedule, it has to be this one. So you open the season, Miami at home, they're a big unknown. Then Samford, there's your win. Then Texas A&M at Mississippi State, probably one of your other wins. UCF comes to town. We don't know how they're going to do. Then Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State. They probably play the two best teams in the ACC. They play
Where are you
basically
getting this?
every heavy hitter from. But I have a vibe. I feel like Billy Napier sticks around.
Oh,
I mean, I hope he does too. I like the guy. I think he's been dealt a brutal schedule, but I don't think they're going to be 10th. Like 10, man. Like,
woof.
I think they are of better caliber than Kentucky. They have the schedule, which is the problem. But I bet when the season's all over with that Florida is ranked higher than Kentucky.
Ty, I can't remember if it was pre-show or like the intro, but you mentioned that you're like, I didn't look at the schedule and I made a pick and I just realized, oof, is this the pick?
This is, yeah. Although I was remembering them being higher up, this Florida at 10 is actually after I kind of thought about it a little bit, and then bumped them down. What you see, what happened was I was on eBay the other day, which is a website that you can buy things secondhand, and I found one of the no free ads though. I'm not saying it's good or not. I was there, and I found the little machine from the movie Inception. You know, where it's like a briefcase and you can go in other people's dreams. And I thought it would be really funny to go into Blake's dreams and plant this seed for Florida at number 10. Unfortunately, when I did that, I did not watch enough YouTube videos beforehand on how to operate the Inception machine. And I also planted the thought in my own mind. So now I am here with exactly the same thought process as Blake.
Okay.
Everyone was speechless.
All right, so y'all have the
They're
Gators
feisty.
at 10. I see. That schedule is just such a bear,
It's
even
not
at
worth
their
it,
best.
Bobby. That's just a bad take. Just we
It's
don't
not
even get the light of day.
What happens if they end up ranked at the end of the year, Jameson? How at like 8-4, 7-5?
Once again, we said the same thing last week. What if my good friend Garrett ended up in a relationship with Dua Lipa? What if? We can say all kinds of things. It's the second week in a row.
All I gotta say, they have that ceiling. They have that ceiling.
Look, if
all
Florida goes
comes-
8-4, they should make the playoff. I'll say
Yes.
that.
Yes,
They should.
yes.
This is the most brutal, murderous schedule I have ever seen. So,
Okay.
but there's no way in hell they're going to be 10th. There's no way in hell they're going 8-4.
You guys are falling for the classic blunder of believing in Ole Miss, and I understand they're not in the conference, Miami preseason rankings. It's like for 20 years now. When are
will
people
say-
going to learn?
I will say I'm intrigued about talking about this that Miami Florida game on week 1. That'll be fun. Ty, who do you got as your number 9?
At number 9, I have a team that I desperately wish to place higher because they have like 80,000 students. They're basically a Big Ten school because they have like an 80% acceptance rate and like 80,000 students, and they say they're academically elite. And I personally, I love the gaslighting. So Texas A&M is my number 9.
So Texas A&M
big
comes
Connor
at number
Wegman
9.
guy down there in Bowden Blake.
A&M comes in at number 9 on Ty's list, my list, Jameson's list, but number 6 on Bowden Blake's. So how do we start this? Do we want to ask Blake why he has him at 6?
I won't blame him. I almost did the same thing as Blake because their schedule sets up really nicely.
It
Yeah.
does, and I really like Mike Elko. You know, I'm not. Yeah, I kind of see it because, like Blake has said earlier, it's a season of indecisiveness. I think it's a lot more unknowns in the SEC than I think people are kind of giving credit for, and that SEC schedule shakes out well. You know, you have Texas at home, you have Missouri at home,
LSU at home, no Georgia or Alabama.
Yeah, I mean it's perfect. You got all your tough ones at College Station.
They travel
Obviously, Notre Dame
to.
doesn't count.
Yeah, I was going to say they travel to Florida, Mississippi State, South Carolina, and Auburn.
Yeah.
Jesus.
It's such a
tough locales, but
it's such an easy schedule.
get
Like that's why I have them higher. It's such an easy schedule when you look at it. They're only playing, I think, one of the 4 like presumed playoff contenders. Only 3 of the top 8 SEC teams when we get to OU schedule, like drawing basically every single one of them. It's insane how A&M got away with this schedule, but Connor Wegman, I think, is going to take a huge step this year. I'm like really high on him. Has a little bit of dual threat ability. I know some injury concerns, which is like many of these good, promising young quarterbacks. But the thing that worries me, though, whenever I did this, like the loss of Ruben Owens is really going to hurt them. I feel like they're going to be a team that wants to they're not going to come out blazing. They want to establish the pace, keep things slow, let that defense pound. But ultimately, like I think there's enough depth there. Connor Wegman and Mike Elko was the perfect hire. Like, talk about a great hire to stabilize the program. Like, he's not a sexy hire. He's not a big name, but that is exactly what they did not need. Mike Elko is just a winner. Like, he always had the A&M defenses when he was there. They were always by far the best part of the team. A&M's struggles have never been on the defensive end, always been on the offensive end. When he went to Duke, he immediately made them like a ACC contender. Like, granted, they were the lower end contenders, but they were fighting in games way above their weight. And that was with a way worse roster. He actually still has some talent here from like the Jimbo days. They lost a good amount when Jimbo left, but they're able to transfer in enough guys. They're still able to recruit well. I think they're the schedule, everything. It just sets up for a good 5 or 6 finish for them.
Yeah, I almost did it too, Blake. I almost bumped him up in another tier just based off their schedule. But the whole Connor Wegman coming off of his season-ending injury to a foot, I'm like, is he going to be that same guy? I couldn't find anywhere what the absolute diagnosis was. So I'm curious to see what kind of season-ending injury was the foot. Is this a Liz Frank, kind of like Chet Holmgren had? Or is this going to be, some other kind of fracture where he can heal better? I don't know what his mobility is going to be like. And it scares me that, yes, I understand they have a lot of their harder games at home, so they might steal one. But, it's a double-edged sword where they could just have really hard opponents, lose the games at home, and then have to go on the road for some of the games that you'd think that they could win pretty easily, and then maybe lose in Jordan O'Hare or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is those road games are tricky because it's one of those things that's like, yeah, it's good to have all of the good teams at home, but what if they're just better than you? Because then you lose your easy gimme home games. Because going on the road to Auburn, that's tricky. South Carolina can be tricky. It's an interesting schedule, and I believe in the program long term. I think Elko's the right type of guy. I think that's the right type of hire that A&M needs. I just need to see it. I need to see it develop. I need to see the program where it's at. So that's why they're a 9. I could definitely see them higher. I don't see them that much lower though. So I think 9 is about right for A&M. Anyways, okay, moving on to our next one. Jameson, who do you have in your 8 spot?
A team that I wanted to put a lot higher, but there's just some other things that I'm just got question marks on, and that's Tennessee.
Ooh.
All right. So Jameson has Tennessee in 8, as well as Ty.
Jameson knows ball.
Blake has them as high as 4. I have them at 6. So tell us why. What do you think about the Vols? Why do you have them in at 8?
Yeah, I'm just going through their schedule. I was kind of chalking up some losses. And I think Oklahoma in their first game in the SEC can come out and get that W versus Tennessee. They're opponent that they've seen in the recent past. And I don't know, my vision there, I just think that Oklahoma and the Jackson Arnold versus Nico game can beat them. I think that there's losses, to Alabama and then Georgia. And then whenever it gets that's 3 losses, 5 and 3, that gets you right around in this kind of range where we were talking about Kentucky being a 4-loss team. So it's kind of right where I had them. I really like this team. Don't get me wrong. We've been talking about them as probably one of the most underrated teams in all of college football. But it's still like this is a young quarterback, same conversation as Oklahoma with a really good defense. You know, the one thing that's maybe a little bit different, I feel like Nico maybe have a little bit of better wide receiver. No, Deion Burks probably puts it over the top. But Chris Brazzell and Brew McCoy are a pretty darn good wide receiver room for them. But it's a young quarterback that I think that there's just 3 losses on their schedule in terms of conference play that I think lands them at 8.
I think they have really good bones to this team. I like the O-line. I like the D-line a lot. But for me, why I have them at 6, which is a little low compared to like some national pundits, is because I'm not sure on Nico yet. I'm not sure on this being a season-to-season program to really compete in the SEC. I thought they were solid last year, a little bit of a dip off. But I want to see how big that bounce back is in this year. And to me, I feel like they'll be good. I feel like they get a bad draw. Obviously, Alabama, Georgia being your two of your natural rivals. That's tough for anyone. Just ask Auburn. But even that, like, you catch Oklahoma at the worst possible time. Like, that is of all of the SEC teams, getting them as your first home game, like being the first home game is like the worst spot. So I think that really hurts Tennessee there. But I still think they'll be pretty damn good. It's a high 6, if that makes sense. I think there's not going to be a lot of. I think it's going to be really tight between 2 and 6. So that's why I have them there. Ty, why do you have Tennessee at 8?
Unfortunately, just mathematically, I could not put them at unranked because of the cupcake of a schedule that they have been given. People need to learn that this is Orange Penn State. They are constantly thinking that they're a blue blood and arguing that they run their conference, and they just get smoked by anyone with a pulse in their own conference, except for like extremely rare instances where they then commit celebratory acts of vandalism afterwards. It's crazy. They're going to drop the game to OU. They're going to lose to Florida. Mark my words. Oh, they're not going to lose to Florida. They had a much better team last year against a much worse Florida team, and they lost. They're going to lose to Alabama. Alabama takes a step back. We'll get into that, but they're going to lose to Bama. Frankly, I think Mississippi State could give them some trouble this year, and of course, they're going to lose to Georgia. So I don't, right? Never been big on Tennessee. Will never be big on Tennessee. I expect that both Jameson and Bobby, as is the standard, have OU ranked higher than Tennessee. Otherwise, why is Brent Venables our coach and not Josh Heupel? But conversation for a different time.
I don't think that me putting them at 8 means I'm down on Tennessee. I think that this is where they just fall in terms they're going to be. I'm saying three losses. I think there's going to be a lot of 3-loss conference teams, and I think that Tennessee
you have to be way worse to be 8th.
I think there's going to be a spider web.
You think they're going to be
there's 3 loss? There's like 3 loss or less teams. There's
that math ain't
mathing. Yeah,
no, there will be a circle of suck in the SEC with the way these schedules pan out.
But that conference never does those. Even those Arkansas and South Carolinas always pull off random wins each year. They always get 1 or 2 of them.
Yeah, but you're adding OU and Texas.
8 being 3 losses is wild.
I think there's going to be a large amount of teams with 3 losses. That's what I'm saying.
I do too, which is crazy. But being 8th in the SEC with 3 losses is like, I'm I'm horrible at math. I don't know how that makes sense.
I didn't do it and equate it out, but I'm just like in my head. I went through everyone's schedule.
It's all good.
It's all good.
A 3-loss team usually gets you at 3rd or 4th, where I have them.
Or they could. The 3rd and 4th teams could be 3-loss teams, and it could just be a long, tiebreaker scenario.
I think 3 losses gets you into the college football playoff, not 8th in the SEC.
Yes. This is how the math works. They mostly all play each other. This is insane. Jameson's trying to backtrack, trying to hedge out of his horrendous Tennessee take. The most ball knower knowledge you can have is that the offensive line and the defensive line matters. And who has a really fantastic offensive line and defensive line? That's Tennessee. I am in love with this. What?
preseason journalist analysis of practice?
No, from last year, they had one of the most productive defensive lines last year.
And they were 9-4.
James Pierce, who
Yeah,
might be the best defensive end in the nation. They return back, like, one of their tackles is a 7th-year starter. Like, they are returning old men on the offensive line.
That's not a good
Let
thing.
him talk. Let him talk.
No, it is. It is. It literally is. These guys are good. Like it's insane. It's Tennessee's perception is blinding y'all into not seeing why this team is different from other Tennessee teams. They have elite offensive line play, elite defensive line play. They're gonna get to the quarterback, and they have like I know people are down on Nico, but Nico doesn't even have to be great in order to succeed in this offensive system. Like this offensive system is the one that Baylor ran forever that got Bryce Petty to be a really good quarterback in the nation. You don't have to do much because it creates so much space for those receivers. As long as you're not Joe Milton and have like some little touch on the ball, you can actually get it to these guys in space. Jameson said it perfectly. 3 good receivers. You have Nico, who a lot of people are high on. Like, I don't think he's going to be like Heisman, but I think he's going to be really good. And this offensive system really helps with these young quarterbacks. So it's going to be one of the better offenses in the SEC. One of the better defenses. Easy 4 for me. Easy.
My thing is like with Milton, a lot of people thought he was like damn good entering that season. Like there was a ton of hype around Joe Milton. Like,
but we had seen Joe Milton. That's the thing. Those people were those people were dumb. We had seen.
I know we knew what was going to happen, but they were still like, oh, he threw a football over them mountains, you know, like.
But it's like the same. I put Nico and Jackson Arnold in like the same position. We've seen them the same amount, and yeah, and I think
one
they're both
MVP of his bowl, the other threw or turned the ball over 5 times. Like that's the difference between the two.
But like that's only one game. Like that's only one game. So I think they're both going to be fine. Like I think they're both going to be fine. But I just think Tennessee is like it's just that system's going to help definitely Nico more than the system OU runs with Jackson Arnold.
Ty?
Jackson Arnold turned it over 4 times. 1 was on Farouk.
That is true. That is true. People forget it really was on Farouk. You're right. That is not a joke.
Not to jump the gun, but oh my god, how many years of eligibility does this guy have?
This is only like his 3rd year.
Yeah, no,
he was the Caleb
his
Williams
freshman year
class.
His freshman year was 21, right? Yeah.
Oh Jesus. Okay.
Yeah, I know. All right, Blake. All right, who do you have as your number 8?
My 8. Let me look. I did not memorize this list. 8. I have the Mizzou Tigers.
Oh man.
You heard that, folks. Bowden Blake has look, y'all cannot
you
call
have them
us
above
OU
Tennessee.
fans.
That is wild. That is
y'all
wild.
cannot call us OU fans haters on Missouri because Bowden Blake has mid poo at number 8. Like he has him lower than all 3 Sooner fans on this podcast. I'm just let the record show. Blake has him at 8. Ty has him at 6. Jameson has him at 5. I have him at 7.
I need to hear y'all Mizzou lovers why you like this. This
Look
is
at their schedule,
especially with Tennessee.
The schedule.
Their schedule, Blake. They got
it's all scheduled.
All these schedules, I know some of them are harder than the others, but they're all gonna have like different hiccups. You got to start evaluating teams and not evaluating schedules. That's all y'all.
Legitimately, I am making a prediction. Blake.
All y'all have talked about is rattled off schedules. You haven't even gone in depth.
I'm looking at their schedule. And I'm making my prediction based off their schedule. It does not mean that they can't have hiccups. Hell, it can go the other direction too. They can go and beat Alabama. They could have a hiccup in the other direction. But what I'm saying is, based off, what I'm saying is off of their schedule, like, you know, look at their SEC games. They got to go to at Texas A&M.
Hard.
And yes, but I still think a winnable game. Because we said there's still some question marks. And then they go at Alabama. And then they got Oklahoma at home. Is that their only games that you're really worried about? Because I don't really see anything else that I'm worried about. I see Mississippi State, South Carolina, and Arkansas, all 3 to end the year. Like, are you kidding? And Vanderbilt. And they also got Vanderbilt. They've got Vanderbilt. That is 4 free wins right there.
I know we talk too much about schedules, but Missouri's is just beyond bad.
I thought about putting them higher than 5.
Like
they have no defense anymore. They have no defense. Their defense was such an integral part of why they were good last year, and it just got completely decimated. Only 3 starters returned.
Like,
Dude.
and I will say this, Blake. Like, there's some people saying that they might make the SEC title game. So, like, us having them at like 5 or 7, like,
dumb. They have
like,
no
that's
good defense.
I feel like this is pretty reasonable. Like, I feel like we're relatively low on Missouri. You're obviously in a different direction, and God, I hope you're right that they're sitting around 8 and find a way to lose some games. But I mean, that was the thing with Missouri last year, is they found a way to win games they were like apparently supposed to win, because apparently they're good last year. They just kept finding a way to win. And I feel like the core of that team returns. And I don't know. I think they are going to get exposed a couple times. I don't think they're a playoff team by any means. But I think they're going to find a way to make, a team that, I mean, look, 11, that team was not an 11-2 like caliber team last year, but they took advantage of the games they were supposed to win. They won them. They won a couple good ones here and there, and credit to them. But that's just kind of what they do. I think they play. The record looks better than how they actually are, but they get the wins, and that's what matters, I think. But I don't think we're too overly high on them.
No, I think Blake's casual taking right now because
Nope.
he's seeing the. No, I understand your take, Blake, but you can't just say like I'm too big brain for a schedule. Like, come on.
No, but it's just the schedule isn't everything. Like,
It isn't everything. You think I'm just playing? That's the only thing. Like,
It sounds like it. It sounds like it so far.
They've got. I could say almost. I think there's a good argument that Luther Burden is the best player in college football.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Talent wins. They've got a quarterback who's been throwing to him for a couple years now. Like, they're going to score a lot of points.
Right. I think Cook's all right. I think it's just that defense is not going to be as good as people think. They're going to play a lot of close games, and they're going to lose. I think you expect with this easy schedule that it's like for sure Mississippi State, for sure Arkansas and South Carolina are wins, and I just don't think they are.
And Vandy.
Oh, Vandy's bad. Vandy's bad.
They've got all. Well, that's 4 wins right there.
No, but I'm saying
And
3
South
of those
Carolina.
I don't think are like I think are going to be a little feistier. Like they're going to be favored, but I don't think we're talking.
They're going to be
like
double-digit
14
favored.
Not versus South Carolina. Like it may be probably not even against Mississippi State.
Okay,
I could see Mississippi State.
At
I
Mississippi
could maybe
State?
see.
like
I could
that. There's not
maybe
going to be
see-
double.
That's a 6-point
double-digit
swing.
favorites?
Yes, it's a 6-point swing.
I don't know, man. I think the markets view Missouri differently. I think it's tricky because I think we are relatively low on the Tigers, but I don't know. Ty, your thoughts?
This is the team I was kind of talking about in text. I kind of burned the joke a little bit on Tennessee, but this is the team I was really talking about. Where like, trust me, they are at 6 for me with the utmost hate. I spent hours trying to figure out how I could justify not having them on this list, and even a noted hater and person willing to take crazy takes that I am, I could not find a way to put them any lower than 6. I wish I could. I do like them more than Tennessee, I will say, because they overperform. They don't underperform, but it's like by Blake's own logic, if you're at 3 losses, you should not be down at like the 8. And realistically, I think even like 4 losses, I could still see you being kind of above 8. So I just don't. I can see again. I think that Levy, as much as again issues with Levy aside, he can be sneaky with some stuff, and the infrastructure is there at Mississippi State to do some flashy stuff. Mizzou overperformed last year. They might be skewing people's minds, but I think A&M, again, who knows? That's a question mark. Mizzou cares a lot about the OU game, right? I don't understand, and it might be my age, but I don't understand the whole thinking that there's some sort of rivalry there, because OU is hated by pretty much every conference opponent that we have. So it's one of those, it's not really a rivalry for us, but it means a big deal to them. So I could see them, showing out for that one. They've certainly done it before in the past. I think OU is going to smoke them, but I don't like same with Bama. Like we don't know what Bama is going to be. Like realistically, Mizzou's 3 big key games are question marks. Like you are an absolute fool if you believe any preseason hype about Texas A&M for the entirety of college football's existence. And then Bama, big question mark. OU, really big question mark. Like who knows? People are chatting about like we might have a quarterback battle right now. So with Mizzou trending the way that they are, as much as people love to hate on them, and as much as there's like rivalries there, I don't see realistically any lower than 6.
Yeah. I mean, I think you nailed it, Ty. I think you nailed it because again, the schedule is the schedule. And like you said, those games, I feel like have to be toss-ups. Well, I have you, by the way. Who do you have as your 7th team?
At my 7th team, it will be a team very familiar to Jameson because he gets a W-2 from them every year as he is on their payroll as a sleeper agent. I have the Louisiana State Tigers.
All right, so LSU checking in at 7 for Ty and Bowden Blake. The Tigers come in at 6 for Jameson, and I have him at 8.
I am the highest, Ty. What do you think about that?
Not surprised.
True.
Not
my
surprised.
God, he admitted.
Jameson, and I quote, "I'm very high on the Tigers this year." That's going on the Schooner Pod.
I'm gonna be honest. I feel like based on what I've read before this, and like looking at media polls and people's opinion of this LSU team, I feel like 6 is either a middle of the pack or a low pack to what some people think they can be. So I think like we're generally all as a podcast pretty low on them.
Yeah,
I'd agree with that.
I'd say we're the bottom side of average.
It's really what it comes down to is, their wide receivers, Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors leaving with Jaden Daniels is just going to be a hit. And their defensive line is what's not getting talked about enough. They were desperate in the portal this offseason. Losing Wingo and Smith is a big deal for them. And they were trying hard to get defensive linemen and they weren't getting it. Their NIL was just not pushing it for some of these big name defensive linemen, which is super hard to get D linemen in the portal because
Dominic Williams,
you and far in between, and you have to pay a lot of money.
It's that and offensive tackles. There is not enough in the portal to go around.
Well, I mean, LSU's probably got the best offensive tackle in the nation. So, I mean, they've got that going for them. But in the reality of it is I worry about them, but I still think that just the persona of LSU in their home field advantage, I think could push them a little bit farther than what you have them at 8, Bobby.
That's exactly why I have them at 8 is because I think all of this preseason bluster is because of that. I will say I do feel like they have a relatively favorable schedule here and there. I feel like they get some of their tougher teams at home. But overall, I feel like a lot of this is brand and hype and Brian Kelly. And I think we're ignoring what they lost. They didn't look like an overwhelmingly good team to me last year. I know they've revamped their defense, as in from the coaching perspective, they've revamped the defense. But I don't know. I just really do not. I don't buy LSU this year. I'm kind of out. I don't see where all of this hype is being generated from. I get that they reload their LSU, blah, 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 blah. But I mean, last year when they were supposedly at the peak of their powers, they weren't even that great. I mean,
they were like the most deceiving 9-3 squad. They played way below that. They played way, way, way below that. It was just Jaden Daniels having just like the time of his life out there and like forcing that team to wins.
But looking at their schedule, I really see 3/4 losses. I think 3 losses is probably what it's going to be. So that puts them right in my little middle of the pack, right?
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, 3 losses. Yes, there you go. But I mean, I don't know. I don't buy it. I don't buy the LSU this year. I don't know.
I'm going to convince y'all that my number 4 versus through 8 are all 3 lost teams.
I just want to say you did bring up a good point, Bobby. It was almost like the call back to the NCAA, or it's not called NCAA anymore, but the College Football 25 video game, which if you're curious about still, you can watch a video on our YouTube. It's definitely one of the videos ever that we've done.
It is a video.
Maybe the worst. It could be the
I was
worst.
too locked in on trying to beat Blake. I wasn't paying attention to the quality.
I was trying so hard to lead that podcast, and nobody was paying attention.
That's why we shouldn't have done the podcast and the gameplay together. It was just it was a lesson
We were
learned.
selfish. No, we wanted to play, and we didn't want to spend time away from the game podcasting, so we did it both. This was a selfish decision.
No, but call back to the game though. They had the broken players situation last year with Daniels. They had right. I wasn't that high on him. I've seen the light. He was legitimately very good, and it's one of those like actually got them out of a lot of messes that Brian Kelly cooked up. So I don't know. They're key games again. 3 really big question marks. Never believe the Ole Miss preseason hype. They'll smoke Southern Cal at least, but it's this will be an interesting one to watch for sure. They're going to have some very entertaining games, like some really high college game day appearance potential if you believe in such a metric. But
for sure, I think it will be an interesting season for them for sure, and I think it's going to be a very pivotal one for Brian Kelly, to say the least.
Jameson,
look,
what happened before we go? What happened to Harold Perkins? Like,
And
what
I
a
think they were
fall off from
They were
year
playing
1
him
to
in the
year
wrong
2.
position. They had him kind of just look straight and rush the quarterback as a freshman because he's a true freshman, and then they try to actually play him within his position to like he'll be as a pro last year, and he just wasn't as good. So it comes down to it is, are you going to try to just shoot him after the quarterback and be like a pure edge rush, or not really much as an edge, more like a rush kind of guy? Or are you going to try to play him inside back, kind of like as a gadget linebacker? And he's a tweener. It's what the reality is. And it's a shame because he's got such a, gifted athletic ability of getting after the quarterback that I feel like they didn't do that enough last year.
Yeah, you got to let him just run like a bat out of hell. Like, that's the best version of Harold Perkins. And they just try to make him do too much garbage. The best Harold Perkins.
But I mean, I get it though, because you got to prepare your guys for the pros. And, if you don't think he can be that at the pro level, which he probably can't based off of his body type, he's going to have to play more of like a linebacker position.
That's fair. But also you got to let them hosses run. Anyways. All right, Blake, I'm looking at everybody's rankings and I see a pretty glaring number 9 here.
We all know
I think I have an idea of where it's going to be. So let's just go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off. Who do you have as your number 9?
At number 9, I have the Oklahoma Sooners.
So Blake has OU. Blake has OU at 9.
I mean the biggest OU.
No. Blake has OU at 9. I have OU at 4, which is high. I thought it would be the highest. Jameson has them at 7. And Mr. Tyler Lee has the Sooners at 3. Blake, I know I called on you here, but we got to let Ty talk here.
Yep. I need to hear this first.
key games. Tennessee. Josh Heupel coaching hype merchants who are like they found a way to beat Colorado, but just slightly less flashy, but a little bit better at football. Not a good team, not a serious football team. If you believe in them, I don't know what should happen to you, but you should not be taken seriously. Texas, very challenging. Toughest team on our regular season schedule, bar none. Just lost a lot of running backs, not factored into my ranking of Texas, so I'm kind of perjuring myself here. But we get the advantage of neutral site, rivalry game, anything can happen. So that one, while very, 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 very challenging, we play them early enough in the season for them to still be stupid and play Quinn Ewers instead of their better quarterback. And they've lost their RB1 and RB2 now. So they might have Arch playing running back, actually, at this point. Whatever they're doing to their running backs in practice, by the time we play them, they'll be at like RB17 at the rate that they're going at. Ole Miss, you should never believe in Ole Miss preseason rankings ever. You are an absolute buffoon if you've fallen for that fire fest of a team that they are year after year. Bama, some people believe in this new coach they brought in. You're not going to replace Nick Saban and not take a massive step backwards. It's not feasible. And then you have Brian Kelly, who fooled everyone for a year because he had a Heisman winner. It's every one of OU's key games is legitimately winnable. A lot of people, OU homer take. If you look at these teams, if OU plays up to what they can be, which as a true OU fan, unlike some, you have to believe that they will. Things are coming together for us. And if Arnold can figure out the turnover thing, and we can figure out the running back room, and the tight ends can finally click, we have excellent receivers, we have a good O-line, we have a very, very solid defense. This is much more winnable than people realize. There was a podcast, I guarantee, somewhere the year that Texas A&M went to the SEC telling people, hey, yes, they're not used to playing everyone else, but everyone else also isn't used to playing them, and they will have an advantage there. And people thought they were crazy. And then Jackson Arnold's not Johnny Manziel. He is not him. But I don't see like this is a reasonable take in my mind.
Yeah, I don't think this is a reasonable take. This is just another 3-loss team right here, boys. And let me just stack all these up. You see, oh man, Blake's getting mad. Blake's getting mad. I think Oklahoma beats Texas. I think
Who did they lose to then?
Okay, I'll say it. So I think that they are going to lose to LSU because that's just I just there's no way we beat LSU in Death Valley. It's just there's too many bad vibes in there for Oklahoma that I can say that we're gonna be.
Gotta clip it. 46 minutes in. This will be fun in November.
This is not like a bad take clip thing. I think this is a very realistic take.
Oh no, but it'll be fun to watch.
I think that we lose to LSU. I think that we lose to Missouri, and I think that we either lose to Alabama or Ole Miss, and I think that we beat one of the others. So I think those are our 3 losses.
So here's my thing. I'm also with you on this. My problem isn't. I'm just confused as to how
I can break it down for you with all of these schedules.
I know. But here's my thing. Obviously, just take care of business against your non-conference, Auburn, South Carolina. If you do that, all you have to do is go 3-3 against Tennessee, Texas, Ole Miss, Missouri, Alabama, and LSU. If you do that, you're in the playoff. And to me, I feel like that sits you around 4th in the conference. Yeah, that's where I think OU is.
I can see it. Like, the thing is with my OU pick, OU is more talented, slightly more stable Florida, in my opinion. They get
ow.
Yes. When it comes to their schedule, they have probably the second hardest schedule, but they are very well rounded on defense. I think their defense is great.
What are you going to compare?
Florida went 6 and 7 last year.
Oklahoma's defense.
Your win total 7.5. It's 7.5.
Well, you know what Florida's win total is? Do you know what their win total is?
5.5.
It's like what? No, I'm pretty sure it's like 4.5.
Yeah, I think it went down. Actually,
I think it's 4.5. Yeah.
It's 4.5.
Like I said, more volatile Florida.
By 3 whole games.
It was a massive delta.
Walk it back.
No, hear me out. OU doesn't play the burner of a non-conference schedule that Florida is playing. That is a fact. Like, that's where 2 losses of Florida is coming from. Is because they're going to be like a pick 'em against Miami and then dogs against Florida State. Like, that's why they're getting more like wins knocked off. But here's my reasoning why. I think OU's defense is incredible. I think they have a great defense. Brett Venables has done a perfect job setting them up. I have no issues there. My issues come with just kind of Jackson Arnold in the offense. It's like, what some of the question marks y'all raise that you're saying he's going to be able to overcome it. We have seen it. It's one data point. So that's why I'm saying they do have a wide range of volatility. Like I could easily see OU being 4, like Bobby said. but I could also see them being way worse just because he can be turnover prone. If he's turning over the ball in these games, the defense is not going to be enough to save him. And they just play so many toss-up games. Like that's the part that worries me. Is like I know Ty is very dismissive of a lot of these programs, but even when you look at OU's easier games on their schedule, like they're going at Auburn, they're like one of their easier games is a team that's of similar, like around similar quality with Mizzou. There's just enough of these teams where they like the other teams are getting gimmies with Vanderbilt and some of these other ones. OU is having to go on the road and play them. This schedule is just really hard. I think Jackson Arnold is going to be a great quarterback. I have no doubt he will be, but just the struggles in the first year, I've seen it with Caleb Williams. I've seen it with Spencer Rattler. I think some OU fans just expect like the Lincoln Riley days where quarterbacks are just perfect, right? Like they come out for the first full season as perfect. A lot of these quarterbacks struggle. Like 90% of the quarterbacks struggle when they start for their first year. And with this schedule, I just think it just gets OU a few more losses than y'all are projecting.
Kind of like Nico.
That's why I said Nico's offensive system is better suited because it's just so quick and they get receivers out in space. Like, I just don't think OU system is that like Baylor or Bryles level. It's an air raid system, but it's not like this run and shoot weird offense that just gets easy completions.
50 minutes in and Blake is praising Art Bryles.
He has to make more decisions because he threw 5 or 6 picks the last time we saw him. So
I'm nervous about Jackson Arnold. I think where I have them at
it's a legitimate concern that your freshman quarterback, your sophomore quarterback that the last time we saw him played a horrendous game is like going to struggle a little bit this year.
I think 7 is a perfect pick for them because I think they beat Tennessee and I think they lose to LSU and Missouri. So
I can see that. Yeah.
In my tiebreaker scenario, they're all going to have the same record.
That's what Jackson Arnold can be great. And then if that's the case with that defense, they are probably at 4, like Bobby's saying. Like I could easily see them that way. It's just you kind of have to project really how Jackson Arnold in the offense is going to be in order to determine where you want OU to be. There's no gimme. There's no gimmies with this team. It's just it can end up anywhere. It could end up anywhere.
I agree, and I think what Blake is projecting is definitely more of like a moderate, moderate.
I'd say lower than it's around moderate. I would say I'm a little bit on the lower end, but I would say it's around where it's like.
I think the preseason SEC, I'll look it up right now. I think we're at 8.
OU's 8. So Blake has them at 9. Here's my thing, though, is we keep talking about the unknowns across the conference. And OU definitely is an unknown, especially on the offensive end. But my thing is what travels, what's consistent is defense. And I feel like this Oklahoma defense is one of the best units in the country. And I think it's really going to show. They did a lot of good work in the portal to shore up the defensive line. A lot of the guys who came back are massive, like award-winning type players. Stutzman, Bowman, Peyton Bowen is going to get a lot better this year too. And I just feel like that defense is steady. And if it's a disaster, if Jackson Arnold's playing like he played against, Arizona in the Alamo Bowl, or is as bad as Al Ashback and the people on the boards are saying whatever people are melting down about, then we're not going to be very good. But I just have an idea that this OU team is going to be a lot different than what we've seen in the past. It's going to be defense focused, and I think that's going to travel. I think the instability in the SEC across the board is going to help. I do think they're going to lose some games. I think they're going to lose 3 games. I think that's about as good as it gets for OU, and that's fine. That's the nature of the beast, and that's going to get you. That could get you in the playoff.
No, I think
are you projecting a playoff?
3 loss with OU schedule is playoff. Is 1,000% playoff.
Not if there's 5 other teams with 3 losses in the SEC.
There won't be though.
I looked up the years past, and it's just like not possible. What Jameson is saying,
Blake,
it's just not going to happen.
That's because there are less teams in the conference, but now there are more teams.
It was much more top heavy.
And I'll say this too. One of OU is historically one of OU's biggest issues, and I've talked with people about this too, and the thing you'll always hear from him is like, I think they'll lose this one because OU always loses one they're not supposed to lose. Yeah. I don't think outside of the non-con, those really don't exist. Because even South Carolina, you got to get up for. You got to get up for South Carolina. you can't not get up for your first SEC road trip at Jordan Hare. And I think that's going to have a bit of an impact with OU not being the hunter, not going into every game being
They'd
like
rather be the hunter than the prey.
Yeah, like not being the
Bobby's
hunted.
like, it's better that they're now the prey.
Like it's sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
I don't know.
Just imagine Dragon natural lines just getting thrown out here.
Jesus. I don't know. I'm just saying, like,
It was
not being
Trade something.
Jesus. I'm just saying, not being the main target, like not even being the main new target in the conference, might help a little bit. I think it's going to be interesting to see how OU operates, how OU fans operate, being in this kind of under the radar wall that the Sooners haven't operated in since the 90s. So,
can I ask Ty what your record prediction is for OU? Put him at 3.
Yeah, I think. Let me pull up. So I did factor. I'll tell you. Sorry, this is terrible podcast. No, so there's one thing that I do agree with Bobby on is I think our highest potential to drop a stupid game, as is Oklahoma tradition, is a non-con, the non-con to Tulane. So
if that happens, we're screwed.
I think that's not a crazy take to say that might be, because we just have that inexplicable loss to a random team. And like Bobby said, all joking aside, I think you have to look at those as the more like inexplicably losable games. I think, just going through Temple win, Houston win, Tulane win, Tennessee win, Auburn win. By the way, earlier in the podcast, Jameson said Jordan O'Hare, which is right.
Yeah, no, wrong.
Sorry.
Texas, we'll say 50-50, right? I'm not going to say on the recorded podcast that we're going to lose that one. Say it's a toss-up, 50-50. South Carolina,
but Ty,
I think we
think
win.
about this. Ty, think about this. If you beat Texas in that scenario, if they win out, don't lose to Tulane, the Sooners are 7-0.
Yes, but
that means
we have a backloaded conference. We have a backloaded conference schedule. For my thought process to put them at 3, right? Let's say we beat Texas, beat South Carolina, beat Ole Miss, beat Maine, beat Missouri. I could see OU then, like injuries, something else. I could see us dropping it to Bama, who in my thought process has dropped some other games. And then like Jameson said, it is plausible that we drop it against LSU because you're talking about last regular season game. We're going to LSU, presumably night game. Like whatever you think about what that team is going to be, which obviously I don't think too much of them, that is legitimately probably the toughest place to play in college football. So I think that it's very plausible that while OU should win both of those games more than Texas, I could see us just dropping both of those inexplicably and causing us to take a little dip in the rankings, even though, right, I think we all know I probably have Texas in front of OU, even though we presumably, in my mind, beat Texas.
Just narrowly missing Atlanta in Ty's scenario there. Wow.
Yeah, I think we're coasting to it. I think playoff plausible. Again, I'm talking about the absolute high ceiling of this team is what I'm expecting out of it.
Well, if they're 3, they're in the playoff.
But I'm talking about like, hey, Jackson Arnold clicks. We don't have any massive injuries, and the defense lives up to the hype. I think everything else is good enough to very easily put us in this spot if we can just become maybe even like the SEC Iowa State this year. Because like I don't think Blake realizes how much, and again, OU homer take here, but like this has been the target for a long time now. This has been the target year for let's start to have things coming together since before Brent Venables arrived at OU. And it's really been, and you see this in our recruiting and everything else, this has been the target. We're not thinking we're going to push for the Natty this year, but this has been the target for a long time. And I think people aren't giving that enough credit. So
two more things on the matter. One, the Schooner Pod, if OU starts 3-3, will be legendary from Tide. The rants coming from that, actually putting some faith and hope in the Sooners, and they lose like 3 close ones to Tennessee, Auburn, and then Texas. Those will be legendary. But in the end, I hope I'm wrong on them and LSU, and like they're battling for like that 4th or 5th spot come that last weekend. I would love for that to be kind of like a de facto college football play-in game, OU going to LSU. Like, I want that game to matter. I don't want OU limping in there and it's just sad and not fun. Like this, it just spits on the face of everything we've done with realignment. If OU's just hobbling at the end and it's just not even interesting or fun, and just like we blew up the sport just for this. So I hope OU does the more optimistic, because I think it'll be a lot more fun. But
certainly agreed. All right, let's move on to our next team to discuss. Blake, who do you have at number 5?
Number 5. I forget, all these teams are so similar that I forget where I put them all. I'm like, easily the team I put at 5, I could have maybe put at 1, but I
Are
do
they all
have
9 and 3.
They're all 9 and 3.
Yeah.
I got Bama at number 5.
All right, so
I like that.
Blake checking the Tide in at number 5. Okay, Ty has them at 4. I also have them at number 5, and old Jameson, Rammer Jammer Jameson, has them in at 2. All right, Jameson, since they're higher, I'm just gonna go ahead and ask you. He's big DeBoer guy, right?
Wait,
Yes, I am.
legitimately higher than you had them last year?
What did I do last year? I don't think we made a rating last year.
Yeah, we did.
We didn't do top 10s last year.
I don't know. Yeah,
Jameson this might be the craziest take in college football history. Jameson has upped his expectations for Bama post Nick Saban.
They just needed to get rid of Saban. He was holding them down, Paul.
Maybe. I like DeBoer. I really do. I feel like people are giving him like a lot of crap because he wasn't like a big name for a long time. But what he did at Washington last year, do not throw that in the trash. Like, in all honesty, I think that was like a great job. And I will say this. I understand the skepticism. You can talk about Saban and all that stuff. I'm going to throw that away. Let's just talk about the team itself. I think that you can
throw the one key factor throwing away. Let's just throw away the best.
Greatest.
Let's ignore the fact that the greatest coach in the sports history left.
Can I say something that's kind of a hot take?
Yes.
You already have.
Yes.
I think that people buy way too much into coaching in terms of big-time programs. I think that if you're a big-time program who gets good players, I think you buy way too much into the coaching.
What?
I don't think that, I seriously think that. I think talent wins.
Okay, man.
I'm serious. I think y'all are laughing at this for a reason. I think that people buy too much into coaching. People say Nick Saban leaving is going to plummet them.
Then why is it the same head coaches that are winning all these titles?
I think
I think it's the talent that the programs get. It's just the same
because they
talent
recruit it year after year.
Well, here's the thing: we're still in Nick Saban's recruiting class right now, Blake.
But what happens after that?
But you still
we're
gotta
talking
coach
about
them.
this.
You can be Miami that recruits in a vacuum, but
that doesn't work in the portal era anymore. They're like,
why is
how
it
many
Miami
people
good?
left Alabama?
Explain Miami then, Jameson. Why aren't they good?
Explain A&M.
I think for top tier programs, I said for top tier programs, I think that coaching gets overblown. For
what's a top tier program that doesn't have a good
Miami
coach?
Miami is not a top tier program.
What's a top tier program with a bad coach?
I mean, it's you've already framed these coaches that are top tier programs to be good. So the argument
because they are good. We get to see it on the field each year. We get the thing called the playoff to see which teams are the best. What this is the time we need to clip this.
I'm more of a player driven guy and rather than a coaching driven guy. That is what I'm saying. I think I buy more into the stock of players than I pay. And I did not say that the coaches don't matter. Do not throw that. I said that I believe more in a player than a coach. That is all I've said. Y'all are trying to throw me into the coaches don't matter. That's not what I said. So I think that Alabama still has a lot of talent. They've got a lot of big guys in the trenches right now. And I feel like Jalen Milroe is the way he played at the end of the season. I think he's an absolute stellar weapon that is going to be extremely hard to stop. I understand their wide receiver situation is a little bit sus, but I think Jalen Milroe is an absolutely stellar athlete that is going to be so hard to stop this year that I got them at 2. I'm sorry, y'all. This is a podcast where I can make takes, and this is my take.
And I will say, Jameson, the one coach in that verified coach in our comments, my buddy Austin, does agree. He actually says coaching is vastly overrating. It's all about recruiting and talent. Like, so the one
Thank
person
you.
Who is recruiting? It's the coaches.
Well, the coaches, yeah. But
In today's NIL, honestly, how much is it the coaches?
It's still
It's a part of it. It's a part of it.
You have to evaluate good talent, and who does that? The coaches.
It's still a part of it. I'm not saying that coaches don't matter. I'm not saying that. So stop trying to put me into that corner. I have said that I think the talent of the players means more than the coaching. That is what I've said. And therefore, what y'all are responding to me, I feel like it's just reinforcing my take that I think that it's overblown. So Saban leaving, the coaching of Saban is going to make Alabama take a big hit. I don't think that's the case. Now, the recruiting, that's a different thing. But I think that the coaching itself, his X's and O's, I think is probably getting overblown by the media.
That's not all a coach does. That's like
one part. That is what I'm saying. Hey, that's what I'm saying.
Can I also say this too? A point, towards Jameson's point in a way, is Alabama replaced one of the greatest of all time, of course, yeah, but they replaced him with Kalen DeBoer, a coach who's won everywhere. He's won at Green Bay Whitewater. He turned Indiana into a 9-win team. What the turnaround at Washington has been remarkable.
Took him to a freaking national championship.
Yeah, so it's I see where I really do see where Jameson's coming from, to give him credit. Like I can see where Alabama, I thought really do think he hit a home run higher. I just feel like the talent they have right now, yeah, it's talented, but does it make sense right now? Is it molded? Is it built, or are they just cobbled together? And that's why I have Alabama at 5. I think they're going to be really, really good. But to me, the talent being kind of, I don't know yet. I don't know where DeBoer is at. And the schedule, and I know I'm not trying to be like a schedule monger. I only talk about schedule, but Georgia, Tennessee, LSU, Oklahoma is a tough run. Wisconsin, the non-con, not very good, but going up to Madison, obviously tricky early.
I will say this, Bobby, sorry to interrupt, but based off my ranking, this is my ranking, so I put Alabama at 2. If you can see Tennessee, LSU, Oklahoma, I don't have them as top 5 SEC teams, and they get Georgia at home. So therefore, that's where I'm putting Alabama in my 2.
Well, keep in mind, I also have Missouri, who is in your top 5, would also be a key game in that sense as well.
So that's 5, 6, 7, and 8 for me. So
yeah,
there's that.
I think it's a pretty tough schedule. And I'm not. 2 is not crazy. It's not it. And I honestly probably overreacted a little bit to the coach take because I really don't think there'll be that much of a drop off. I just don't know what this team will look like, especially Jalen Milroe looked great down the stretch, but this Alabama team, they showed cracks last year. They were without Jalen Milroe, without that 4th and whatever bomb, they would have lost to Alabama and missed the SEC title, I believe. Or no, they wouldn't have
lost to Auburn.
Auburn. Sorry, they would have lost to Auburn in the Iron Bowl. So they were a play away from catastrophe, a miracle away from catastrophe.
They still would have gone. They still would have gone. I just checked.
They still would have gone, but they wouldn't have gone to the play.
Had 2 losses.
They wouldn't have gone to the playoff.
Oh yeah.
So no. So and again, keep in mind an Auburn team that the week prior lost to New Mexico State. So to me, that Alabama team, they had inconsistencies. Maybe a coaching change is what they needed. Not to be crazy, but sure, maybe that changes everything. I don't know.
I've already converted Bobby.
Look,
I disagree because I think
DeBoer after one national championship appearance where he got blown out.
DeBoer is going to have growing pains.
Okay. Look,
is better than Nick Saban. What?
That's not what I'm saying. Don't put me in hyperbole.
That. He's
I said that was a hypothetical. I said that's why I said maybe. I'm like, oh, well, maybe it fixes it, but maybe it doesn't. It probably doesn't, because you don't just replace Nick Saban and then expect to run this team out against a really tough schedule and I think it'll be difficult. Ty, I'm sorry. We've
Yeah.
been
I just
talking
hop
for
in.
far
Just
too
hop
long.
in, Ty.
No,
Ty,
let me
stop.
say, right? No, because this isn't directed at like anyone specifically, right? This is my opinion, but it's like to get to the level that Nick Saban was at, to be a high level leader like that, you're setting culture, you're setting general expectations, and then what Nick Saban figured out how to do that no one else has really cracked the code on. People want to do this, but people haven't cracked the code on. Is a lot of head coaches are not doing the X's and O's. You don't have the Lincoln Riley OC and head coach situation a lot. You have the guy who is, recruiting the players, developing the players, and sort of setting that tone and vibe. Nick Saban figured out how to do that not only for the players, but for coaches, right? Like we have to remember that we're talking about a guy who presumably, making some guesses on people's ones and twos here, was someone who developed and made the, teams who were up here in people's 1, 2, and 3 spots, made their head coaches what they are. You're talking about a guy who developed Kirby Smart into what he is right now. Like that is what Nick Saban did. And that draws everything else in, right? Like to Jameson's point, yes, this is still Nick Saban's recruiting class. If you're looking at the players, it's still everything else, but this is a fundamentally different system, in my opinion. You had a guy who was operating at a level that no one else had figured out how to do. A guy who could identify talent, not just on the player level and develop it, but he could identify talent and say, this guy has talent. He's never really been developed. And he could do that at the coaching level and turn people who are flops or just unheard of into very, very successful head coaches. And that's why he was able to do it over and over and over and over again. You see it with really high level corporations in the business world where they can identify, students and people from other jobs, take them into their culture, develop them, get a ton out of them in a couple years, and then those people go elsewhere and become other CEOs and everything else. That's what Nick Saban did that no one else has done. And to Jameson's credit, right, like that immediate impact of him going is not going to be felt this year because you do have a very good coach coming in and it is still his recruits. But I think that's very underappreciated. And I don't see a lot of people, again, not directed at anyone on this podcast, and I'm probably the most ball not knower on this pod, but I don't see a lot of people talking about that enough in the media.
That's a really good point for the long-term success of Alabama. And it is something that like Saban like kind of helped with his struggles towards the end is the churn of, just getting, there is a way to suffer from success of getting all of those assistants massive jobs. And, when they get the massive jobs, they all leave. And it's hard to hit on every single one of them after over and over and over again. And it's going to be interesting long-term to see what happens with DeBoer. If he can also do that similar sort of thing. But yeah, year one, it's going to be a massive change, to say the least. And right, I don't know. I'm intrigued to see where it all pans out. But I think all of us are relatively, I don't want to say skeptical. Like 5 in the SEC isn't skeptical, but it's for Alabama, that's damn skeptical.
I think it's pretty damn skeptical.
Yep, and the thing that's not being talked about too, like the DeBoer hire, I think over time will be great, but the short-term fit of Jalen Milroe and Kalen DeBoer trying to run that offense, it's night and day from what Michael Penix was doing. Like Michael Penix was slinging the ball all over the field, had a very accurate arm. Jalen Milroe, I don't think can still throw the ball. Like he only got things done with his legs, and I'm just unsure of what DeBoer is going to be able to do with that. Like we saw Alabama struggle bad at the beginning of the season. Like they were going into like final minute drives versus USF just because like in the weeks prior, they still hadn't figured out what Jalen Milroe can do and how to run an offense around him. And I don't even know if they really figured it out by the end of the year. They just kind of like let him cook Jalen and just like, if there's not a immediate read, just start running. I just don't know, like such a technical quarterback like DeBoer who runs a specific offense, how that's going to adapt to Jalen Milroe. I don't think Jalen Milroe comes out of nowhere and becomes a great passer this year. So I'm just very, 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 very curious what that looks like. And I just don't think it's going to mesh as well as people think.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. And Keith in the comments, who thank you so much for stopping by. I'm pretty sure is a Tide fan. Mentioned like Milroe had issues earlier last year. Didn't play great against Texas. Got benched against UCF, USF.
USF was a
which-
rainy game where they played Tyler Buckner and Ty Simpson, right?
But
That was also a
Jalen
massive
Milroe
mistake.
got
That was
benched
really
for that
dumb.
game. Like
That
he
was
got
really
benched for that
dumb.
game.
Yeah,
He got
stupid.
benched and it was really
stupid.
freaking
It was
stupid.
stupid. Yeah,
It was dumb.
Tyler Buckner is a wide receiver
What
now,
bad.
isn't that right? Or
Get-
a running
get-
back.
He's
Tommy
playing.
Rees
No, he's
is-
playing. He's playing.
Getting Tommy Rees
lacrosse,
out
I
of there
think,
is going to
now.
help.
Oh,
he's
he's
playing
playing
lacrosse.
lacrosse. That's right. I knew it was something bogus.
Yeah, he
Like-
went. I think he went to Notre Dame to play receiver, but then was like, "Psych, I want to go back to playing lacrosse." Like,
He was a quarterback at Notre Dame, transferred to Alabama, transferred back to Notre Dame. Is like, I'm going to play lacrosse now.
Stupid.
So, yeah, wild. But yeah, I'm intrigued to talk about. Very intrigued to talk about what happens with Alabama as the season progresses. It's going to be the hottest story of college football, if you ask me, to say the least. Let's move on to our next team to talk about.
You were
Jameson.
gonna talk to Ty.
yeah.
Maybe, but we'll make it work.
go for it.
So, all right, Jameson, who do you have as your number 4 team?
Horns up, Texas Longhorns.
I have this incorrect. Yeah, Texas, but
That's what I put, right?
yeah, you did. I screwed up the doc. I apologize. Who do you have so we'll get to UT. Who do you have at number 3 actually?
Ole Miss.
All right, so you got the Ole Miss Rebels at number 3. So you got them at 3. Blake has them at 3. I have them at 2. And Ty has them over at 5. So, Jameson, why do you like the Rebs at 3?
I just kind of think that they did a really good job in the portal this year, and I don't want to buy too much in the portal, but just like I said in the past, like talent's gonna win. I think Princely and Manmullin can be a first rounder. Walter Norland, former number 1 overall recruit in the country, and then it's just like the continuity what you have with Jackson Dart at the quarterback position. People can kind of make fun of Jackson Dart, but like returning quarterbacks do have talent with talent on the defense with the talent that Jackson has at quarterback. I mean, I think that this team is really poised for success this year. I think, what you'll get out of Ole Miss is a fluke. Both sides, I think they'll have a game that they're not supposed to win, that they do win, and then the other way around. But I think that Trey Harris for them is going to have a really, really great year. And I think Jackson Dart's going to be stellar, to tell you the truth.
Yep, I think this is a make or break season kind of for Ole Miss in my mind. It's my knock against Lane Kiffin this entire time is he's had talented rosters, none I think as talented as this one, but just feels like he can't take that team to the next step. It's like, can you get to the 2 spot? Like that's where it all like centers to me. It's like whether they can actually take a team to the SEC championship, which Ole Miss never really does. I think the transfer portal gains over the last 2 years have been big, and like they've been bringing in transfer portal guys that are still like starting for them. Like that's the thing is like they're not even just doing filler pieces. Like Ulysses Bentley's on his 2nd year, going to be like a huge in the run game for them, and it's just everything has to come together this year. But I just have questions with Kiffin whether he can win those big games. I have questions with Jackson Dart. I like him. I don't love him. He has weapons around him. And then with Quinshon Judkins being like how much of a difference, but with their committee now, how much of a gap is it? I think it's a little bit. I don't think it's that much, but I just I have them teetering right near Texas. Like I think they could potentially get at 2. It's just I feel like Old Lane is going to be Old Lane and just like win a lot of games, but not put them in actual title contention.
Is it a crazy hot take to say that I think that they can beat Georgia at home?
No.
I think I slotted them as winning that game in my little predictions.
So that's why I have them at 2 is because I feel like I'm down on LSU to start. So I think they can win in Baton Rouge. I think that OU going into Oxford, I think that's a loss for the Sooners. And at that point, if you lose to Georgia, well, hey, you get them in Atlanta if you take care of business. So I get it. Like if they had a tougher schedule, I'd have a lot more trepidation about the Rebels. I wouldn't be certain about it. Like I would be all in on Kiffin hasn't done it yet. Prove it to me. But this schedule to me, I'm just really balking at. I think Ole Miss really, this is the time to shine. And I will say this: if Lane doesn't get it done this year, he's never going to get it done. This is set up perfectly. The roster's there, the experience is there, the schedule's there. If Ole Miss does not make a run to the college football playoff, I don't see Lane Kiffin being able to lead Ole Miss anywhere, really. Like this is the shot right here. You know, given
I don't know. I'm not going that far. I think it is one of these shots, but they have been recruiting better. They've been recruiting better non-transfer portal, which gives me hope for the future. And like they're always guaranteed a top 1 or 2 portal class. So I'm not going as far as like this is their only shot.
Yeah, I'm not saying only, but this is their best. It feels like their best. It's
been their best in forever.
Yeah, and I feel like there's some kind of similar with Lincoln Riley in a way, where it's like, Jameson, I'm sure you remember the 2021 season, where like, this is Lincoln's best shot. If you can't figure it out, then I don't know. Kind of feels like that with Ole Miss a little bit. Like, I don't know. I'm not trying
they're going to be a playoff team. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would be extremely surprised if they don't make the playoffs. Like extremely surprised. And that's even me in my little schedule prediction saying that Oklahoma could beat them on a fluke kind of thing. Because I think that Oklahoma would be that team to be like go into Oxford and be the fluky like win that shouldn't have happened or the loss that shouldn't have happened for Ole Miss. But you know, they're too talented to not make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Agreed. And it would take some pretty brutal losses for them.
The top 4 are going to make it for the SEC for sure every single year, I think.
Yeah. I not to be biased, but I think that's probably very likely.
So
outside of like a really brutal year where everyone cannibalizes each other, then yeah. But
I think they'll just see that as strength. That's the good thing about this new conference for OU is like even when they cannibalize itself, it's perceived strength, not weakness. It's just like we have so many good teams this year, just not
so many 3-loss teams. It's going to be a really hard conversation for the committee.
All of the 3-loss teams, so they might just do a conference tournament. Just let them all play each other.
It's a great idea.
It's almost like it was like a regular season or something. You could call it. You could just have everyone play a round robin, and at the end of it, crown one true champion, right, Blake?
Yep. The best idea in the world till there was no tiebreaker.
Well, there is a tiebreaker. They just ignored it and gave both teams trophies anyways.
What if I told you that 5 teams have 3 losses in this conference? Would you believe me?
I think 5. Yeah, 5.
There you go. So there we go.
But you were talking like 8 or 9.
You said 8. Like
yes.
You have Tennessee having 3 losses and you have them at 8. Like, so yeah. Or no, you have them at 7. Sorry.
Where was I? Did I say 8 or did I say Tennessee's at my 8? And I think that there can be 3. I don't know if that was.
No, you said Tennessee is 8.
Yeah, you have
Tennessee
losses. At 8 with 3 losses.
Yes. Exactly. So I think that 4
half
through
the
8
league has 3 losses.
So I think 4 through 8 can have 3 losses.
So Vanderbilt goes winless, and like South Carolina goes winless, and like all of these other teams do not win an SEC game.
Yep.
I will say the one thing being highlighted here: the SEC needs to go to 9 games instead of 8 for a conference schedule with a conference this big.
Without a doubt, the 9 games need to happen. Like
it needs to go 9.
I'm not going to act like some sort of SEC person, be like, "Oh, well, the conference is so tough. We can only play 8 games because how else is South Carolina going to get in the Gasparilla Bowl? I'm not going to be like banging the drum for that. Like it's ridiculous. Like play 9 games, play better games all the way. We had the toughest schedule in the SEC, us in Florida. I would love to have another game on our schedule from the SEC. It'd be great. Hey Ty, quick question. What do you think about the Mississippi Rebs this year? What do you think about Ole Miss?
I have them. What do I have them at? 5. So, I mean, I think I don't think they beat Georgia. I don't think they beat OU. And LSU, again, toss up. But in my, I don't really recall off the top of my head, but in my thought process when I was making it, it logically made sense that dropping OU and Georgia kind of dumped them down there. So I think you get the same thing you get from them every year, except now two teams that are, I think OU's at their level. It might be an OU homer take. And then I think you add some teams that are at or above them, and that really hurts a team that I don't think really changes the level of play that they're going to bring to the field.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So who do you have as your number 2? So we're down to the nitty gritty. Only 2 slots per person left on our top 10s. Who do you have at number 2, Ty?
At my number 2, I have the team that Jameson presumably has at number 1. Give me the Texas Longhorns.
So Ty has the Texas Longhorns at 2, as does Bowden Blake. I have him at 3, and Jameson has the Horns slotting in at 4. So Ty, let me know why the Horns at 2?
Well, I think they drop a game in the regular season that they get to play again in the championship. So I think it doesn't hurt them all that much to basically guarantee drop Georgia. A&M is going to care so much about a game that they're going to get smoked in. And then OU, again, I think OU wins that one, but very winnable game for Texas, presumably. Although, we'll see. Michigan, I know it's up there. Obviously, we can talk about Michigan all day, but irrelevant to the SEC matrix. So, again, I think very entertaining game. One I'm looking forward to seeing, and one I think Texas will win, and it will really boost their brand this year. But doesn't matter, and I think they have 2 very winnable games, and one that should probably be a loss, although they've played well against Bama in years past. Obviously, they're not playing Bama, but I don't think it matters all that much when you lose to the one team that everyone has above you anyways. So that's why I have Texas at 2. Although in my matrix, they are a 2 with a loss to OU. So I have a 2-loss team at 2 for those keeping track of the win-loss.
There you go. It's going to be interesting with Texas because I feel like I don't want to be a schedule monger again. They got the light side of the schedule. Couple tough games here and there. Jameson, you have them at 4. Why are you kind of down on the Horns?
It's as simple as this. I think that their defensive line they're another team that I'm worried about their defensive line. People are not talking enough about Tavondre Sett and Byron Murphy leaving. Like those were stellar players for them. And I think a lot of people are buying stock into Quinn Ewers and who they were. And obviously them as a college football team, college football playoff team last year. But, Quinn Ewers is throwing his 3 top receivers last year are all gone. And Xavier Worthy, Adonai Mitchell, and oh my God, Carolina Panthers tight end, completely blanking on his name. Big guy that actually wasn't that good. But moral of the story is,
Number
they're all
0, right?
Donnie Mitchell?
Jatavian Sanders.
Jatavian Sanders.
So I just needed to think about it for a little bit. But I think they still have really good transfers coming in. But I think that whenever you have a whole new wide receiving room for a guy like Quinn Ewers, who I don't think was as good as the media is pumping him up to be, which we all agree with on this pod, having a whole new receiving room and a guy that I don't think is that good, I don't know if they're better than Ole Miss, and I don't know if they're better than Alabama. So I'm sorry. That's why I've got them at 4. I think that's very fair.
Like,
yeah, I will say I actually 100% agree with everything that Jameson said. It's just a range, and we went opposite ends of the range, but I don't disagree with anything.
Go ahead, Blake.
Oh, I was just going to say that said perfectly. It's like when you get to these top 2, like the top 4 in the SEC are going to be playoff teams, and they're going to be pretty close together. There's just going to be a few key differences that separates them. I like some of the continuity with the offensive line. I like Quinn Ewers. I'm just hoping like he just takes like a little bit of a next step. Like it's insane to think he was rated. He's like one of like 2 or 3 perfectly rated prospects ever. Like that's insane. And so it's like, even if he scratches a little bit of that potential, but like, I don't think he's going to be some like Heisman winner or anything like that. But Jameson kind of touched on it a little bit. The defensive transfers, some of the offensive transfers when it came to the wide receiver room, I really like. it feels like the better version of like TCU a little bit, like kind of patchwork. It seems like everything is about at 90% or a little bit less of what you're feeling. So I definitely see the hesitancy, but I think I'm starting to believe in what Steve Sarkisian built there, and he really built depth in that program, like something they didn't really had. Like they had stars there. Like Texas has always had some star players, even if they haven't been good. But I think he's building genuine depth there that makes me feel a little bit comfortable that they're kind of on the same range as like a Bama was before this year, or a Georgia, where it's like you're building years of depth into that roster, that it's guys you've never heard of, but they're really good players that were 4 or 5 stars. They just haven't seen the field that much. This one kind of feels like a gut play a little bit to me, because I definitely I don't think Jameson's wrong with any of his analysis. Like they return like 6 or 7 starters on defense, but the 4 that they lost are 4 major ones. And that can't be understated. But yeah, Texas must have paid the SEC office a little bit more than y'all in order to get this like soft little easy schedule compared to whatever they gave OU. But yeah, I have Texas there at the 2.
One quick take, Bobby, before I just let you guys take it. I will give my positive to Texas is on the defense side of the ball. Anthony Hill at the inside linebacker spot is probably one of the best. He's going to be an all-pro linebacker in the pros. He is so freaking good. Watch him this year. Him as a freshman last year was unbelievable. He's going to be a huge difference maker for him this year.
Absolutely. And for me, like with Texas, like I kind of feel if the schedule is more balanced, I'd put them around like 4 or lower. It's really just, to me, like I feel like last year they were not as dominant as people thought they were. They lost the 2 biggest games they had on their schedule against the 2 best team. Well, sorry, 2 of the 3 best teams on their schedule they lost.
Yeah, I was like, I
forget about that Alabama game.
Yeah, it was big. I remember when it happened. It felt like a major. It's like, oh, we do not see these out of conference games at all. Like Texas going into Bama and playing. That was
we were watching that watching that game in Norman at the tailgate on the TV after our game, after the OU game, watching it like it was Red Wedding or something, and just like, oh God, we are so screwed. But I know who Texas is. They will find a way to fold, and I don't see them at 2. I think they'll lose enough games in the SEC. They'll either trip up against Oklahoma or A&M, definitely losing to Georgia. And I don't know. I'm not buying the SEC championship hype, but I think they're going to be good enough to like get into the playoff with the type of schedule they have. I'm intrigued to see how Michigan ends up. That'll be a very intriguing game, in Ann Arbor, but they're obviously quite diminished. I don't know. This Texas team, to me, I think people are overhyping a little bit, but I think they'll still be pretty solid. So,
which team is going to take them at their home field? Kind of like a Kansas Jayhawk. I'm going to give you Mississippi State. I'm going to give you Florida. I'm going to give you Kentucky.
Give me Florida. Give me Florida.
Okay, Jeff Levy beating Texas in game 1, like Texas's SEC opener, and Jeff Levy goes in and beats them with Mississippi State would be so freaking funny.
Mississippi State. I think I've been. No,
I don't think it'll happen.
Kentucky doesn't. Kentucky wins the games they're supposed to win. Yep. Might win a toss-up, like a close point spread. They don't upset these big dogs like that. That is not what that program is built to do, Bobby. I know you might pull one example, but we see it year in year that are perfect. They pay him raises for going 7-5. Like that is what they expect that program to be a good year.
But also, Blake, wouldn't it be perfect if a Stoops beat Texas?
Oh, it would be.
I'm going to throw Mississippi State out of there. Y'all know their quarterback, right?
Yeah, it's Blake Shapen. That's what I was about to say. I'm like, Mississippi State has a potential to be the worst of the SEC teams, like even worse than Vanderbilt. I hate them all. I hate them all the way around. They don't have any talent. They don't recruit well. They have a horrendous quarterback. Yep. Nope, I've seen Blake Shapen try to throw the ball.
Yeah,
Dude's
out of
pitiful.
He's
shape.
bad. He's bad.
Before we go on Texas, Ty, how is do you think Formula One being in Austin the same weekend as the Georgia game, do you think that's going to have any impact on the atmosphere?
Isn't there also something? I feel like there's 3 big events.
There's surely not ACL that weekend too.
No,
There's no way.
No.
No, but I just love the idea of Euro trash and Georgia fans getting into arguments. Like, it just makes me happy. Just the
Just
the
inadvertently.
visual. Oh yeah.
Just like that would be actually pretty funny. Like a bunch of Georgia fans spot some McLaren fans from across the bar, but they're
Thinking
really
they're-
drunk, so they don't know that they're Texas.
They think they're Tennessee fans.
Yeah. Or Daniel Ricciardo, noted Texas fan, is wearing Texas gear and gets like assaulted by Georgia fans.
Well,
Would be
being
really
barked
fun.
at.
Wouldn't be funny, but it would be funny.
Yeah, it wouldn't be funny, but it'd be like a little humorous.
I'm
Be a
still
little
out on
humorous.
Georgia fans. I think they're soft.
You think
That's
they're
a-
not about that life?
Speaking of them, we all know who we have at number one. Let's be honest. It's them dogs. Georgia, unanimously number 1 on our slate. Last year finishing 13-1 with that SEC championship loss. Key games: Clemson, Alabama, Texas, Ole Miss, and Tennessee. So tough slate, but all of us have them number 1. Jameson, why are you big on the dogs? And we'll just pass the bone around talking about.
Is the
Why we
term
like-
big like actually a term here? Why am I just thinking that they're there? I think I'm just group thinking. It's Georgia. They are clearly the most talented team in the SEC, and they should be number 1. And if anything is below number 1, it should be a disappointment for there. They don't really have a glaring weakness on their team. You know, Trevor Etienne coming in as a transfer running back, he'll be reckless at driving the ball down the field. It'll be, sorry, I'm just trying to, no one caught on to the reference there. I was hoping for a response. Reckless driving down the ball.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Ollie
I should-
It
Gordon
happens with so
transfer?
many Georgia. It happens with so many Georgia players that it just doesn't even faze me anymore.
Yeah, I didn't stage it that well, to be honest. I think I just read it, and no, not good staging. Moral of the story is they don't have a weakness on their team. It's just in and out. And I can tell you a weakness about every single one of the teams beyond it. And I know we've already had this conversation before, and I kind of wanted to, because I think this is just going to be like all just bumping up Georgia. It's not really a fun conversation. So let me start this. I think Carson Beck is getting too much hype than what he deserves.
I think he's going to be great. I think he's going to be really good.
I just think he's getting too much hype. I'm not saying that he's bad. I'm saying that I think he's getting too much hype because it's this Georgia, like, oh, Georgia finally has a quarterback kind of thing. Oh, wow. He must be like the second coming of Jesus.
I think he's better than Stetson Bennett, and we saw.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
I know. And Stetson Bennett was in New York, like third or fourth on the Heisman ballot that year. Like, that gets you far with the Georgia team. Like, I'm not saying like if you're going pure pro, you're only isolating him. Sure, he probably is a little bit overhyped, but Jameson said it perfectly. They have no weaknesses. They have a great offensive line that can block him. They have a great complementary run game that you can run the play action with. Maybe, I guess, if you had to really nitpick them, maybe pass catchers just in general, like you're losing a little bit. Like Lad McConkey was. Like, he didn't play much last year, but like the year before was fantastic for him. Brock Bowers, when he wasn't injured, was the best pass catcher probably in the entire nation whenever he was playing. Like, they're maybe lacking a little bit there, but they have a great defense. It's what Will Howard said about being at Ohio State. He just has to, like, he doesn't have to lead the team, doesn't have to have unworldly performances. He just has to like go out there and like get it to these guys. And that's kind of why I think like Carson Beck, like, he might not be a good pro, but I just think everything around him will elevate him so much more than like even like a Stetson Bennett. It's just going to look a lot better.
Can I just say something real quick about the Carson Beck again? I just pulled up, I typed in NFL mock draft, hit one by Pro Football Network was the first one I clicked. Legitimately Carson Beck number 1. That's wild. I think that's wild. I think people are pushing. Okay,
like,
hold up. There's no way
come on.
There's no way this is real. I'm just gonna stop real quick. This has to be a troll trap. Guys, I will give you
Mel
an
Kiper?
option. I don't know. It's the Pro Football Network isn't the biggest network, but let me just put y'all with this. Guess who the number 2 overall, and you'll never guess. It's a quarterback. You'll never guess this. I'll give y'all 20 guesses. You would never get it.
Wait,
It's
what's the
someone
question?
it's a Schooner Pod. I love this guy. I've loved him for a long time. This draft, mock draft, has him at number 2.
Is it
Is it
Dylan
quarterback?
Gabriel?
He's a quarterback in the
No.
Big 12.
It's Rocco Becht, isn't it?
Oh, it's Shedeur
Rocco
Sanders.
not draft eligible, right? Rocco's not draft
Yeah,
eligible.
no, he isn't. He was a freshman last year. Oh, God,
Dude.
even in the Big
Sanders.
Donovan Smith.
No, there's no way. What? No.
There's gotta be. I gotta read this. I gotta read this further because this gotta be a troll.
No. You was this made April 1st of 2024? Like, there is no way.
I clicked the first link. This was published July 20th. What's going on here?
Is it no? Did they get it confused? No. Did they
Nope,
get the
Donovan
wrong
Smith.
Donovan? Like, even if you took a running back that high, like the one from Michigan. What?
At 6'5", 235 pounds, raw talent is by no means in short supply with Smith. He's a superb athlete with stellar arm talent and off-platform ability.
Okay. What?
I'm sorry.
Donovan Smith. We
Yes,
talked
I'm
about
sorry.
I like
Drop this
Donovan
one
Smith.
in the chat. Drop this one
What?
in the chat. Jason, so
I'll link it, but like this is just wild to me. I'm just this mock draft is super wild.
There's
Sorry,
no
get back
way.
to talking about Georgia.
But yeah, I mean, they're kind of, and I feel like a lot of Georgia fans are like, we're getting disrespected. Nobody's talking about the Dogs. What is there to talk about? They're the most complete team in college football. Like, they're damn good. They're going to be damn good again. They got bamboozled.
last year.
They
could
were
have been the best
probably the
last
best team last year. I agree. They
Like,
just got beat. They got beat
They
on the
lost-
wrong day.
yeah, it was like the most unfortunate time to like put up a loss. But they could have easily been there in the national championship.
Yeah. So I mean, I think they're going to take losses. I don't think they're going to be perfect like they were last year in the regular season, but they're by far the best team in the SEC, without a doubt.
Yeah, I really don't think it's an argument, to tell you the truth.
No.
It's kind of a boring topic.
No, in 1982, in the comments was like, "Can we just go ahead and put Georgia at number 1 to start the show?" And I'm like, I wish I would have thought of that before.
Pate
putting the
doesn't
overlays
have them in
together.
the SEC championship game, so
Blake is such a Pate believer now. It's
no, I'm
He
not.
is-
I just listen to everything
Oh
that he
my
says. I like to hate watch. It's fun.
Yeah. I actually don't mind Pate. I don't mind him.
Yeah, that's even worse than Jameson's take tonight, but we don't have to. I've lost all
My
energy,
take was
but-
not a bad take. I'm standing by that. I said it was a hot take, and I stand by it.
You
And
swayed the
y'all-
other ball not knower on the podcast.
It is a hot take.
What's-
It's supposed to be hot. It's
Feeble
supposed to be
minds.
hot. To where
I'm
people
not
disagree
fully
with
swayed.
it.
No,
And
it's,
I therefore am standing on it. I'm standing on it.
it's a ball not nowhere take because through your entire explanation, you showed that you think that head coaches just do X's and O's.
No.
It's
No, I said explicitly I don't think that there's much X and O's here going on. That was part of the big reason I don't think head coaches are that big of a deal.
okay. We don't need to dive back into this one.
It's just a culture.
I will say, Jameson, Texas A&M desperately needs you as like a very powerful donor
Well, their
to
culture
get all the other donors in.
I know.
You know, there's a thing where it's like, you know, coaching and then there's culture.
Yeah, the culture is set by the leader of the program. It all leads back. All roads lead back to the head coach.
I mean,
I'm standing
okay.
on what I said. I think that what I
Do you
said.
think
Look,
Alabama
look,
just has this culture that has just always been there, that forever has just been a
Is
culture?
Nick
No.
Saban a system coach?
Yeah.
No.
Look, Keith in
No,
the
what
comments
you
said
guys-
something hilarious earlier that was kind of dead on. He's like, again, I'm pretty sure as an Alabama fan, he said, we had a 3-9 season under Shula. Tell me coaching doesn't matter.
No,
Like-
y'all are playing extremes with me here. I'm not trying to play extremes. All I'm saying is I think it's overrated.
Maybe. All right, let's move on from this again. Does anyone want to bring up any of the SEC teams not mentioned in this show? Any
I'm
talk of the
surprised I
Hogs?
didn't see Auburn. I thought I was going to see
I am
Auburn.
too. I thought I was going to see Auburn too. They're going to upset somebody this year that's super random and like it's
I feel
the
like-
Hugh
yeah.
Freeze. It's the Hugh Freeze model. They're going to upset somebody.
Freeze, yeah. And I think Freeze and Thorne and all them, they can do some stuff. I just don't think they're going to be very good. That's why I had them out. But I think they'll be. I think they're probably my 11th. I think they're feisty enough, but they're not consistent. Which, there you go.
Definitely
There's
not
the problem.
Florida at 11. That would be really stupid.
Definitely not Florida at 11. Okay, talking about the Hogs, guys. Just quick little thing.
Ty,
Pittman-
do you have something on Auburn?
I did have something on Auburn.
I'm so
It was
sorry,
real
Tyler.
quick though. It would be the funniest thing ever if Bama's new coach is actually really solid, except for Hugh Freeze just having his number and they just get embarrassed in the Iron Bowl every year. And Auburn's like a perennial 6-7 program, but they just know they're going to beat Bama. And then Bama's like a perennial like 12-1 program because they can just never beat Auburn. That would be the funniest thing.
Kalen DeBoer's on like the Ryan Day watch where he's going like 11-1 every season, but the only loss he has is Auburn.
Making the
He's, like,
playoff,
making
but they're
the
just
playoffs.
losing to Hugh Freeze.
And like that's what puts him on the hot
The
seat.
only one that mattered. That'd just be hilarious. I would love to see it. That's kind of what Hugh Freeze did a little bit with Saban. A little bit.
Yeah,
when
at
he
Ole
was at
Miss,
Ole
yeah.
Miss, but he couldn't just stop texting them ladies of the night, got especially on the company phone. Too bad stuff. Or too bad. Let's talk a little bit about the Hogs.
Speaking of
Sam
ladies of the
Pittman.
night,
Speaking
Bobby
of ladies of the
Petrino.
night, Sam Pittman.
The only thing that Blake wants to talk about is 2 hogs that are on Sam Pittman. That's all he wants to talk about.
I will be texting that picture after every Sam Pittman results, regardless of win or loss this year. I can't have him go. This is gonna be so sad. I need that picture. I need them just to go like 6-6 and keep him on for one more season. It's the only thing that really excites me. It
How in the hell
passed
are
the
they
mashed
gonna get 6
potatoes.
wins?
It
The
mashed
only thing that excites you is Sam Pittman.
it gets me going. It like that picture.
Look,
just-
everything has their thing. Everyone has their thing, man. But
it's like the mashed potatoes thing was so long synonymous with Arkansas, but now it's that picture. It's like when he says we're gonna ride the hog this year or
embrace the hog.
Embrace the hog. It's all I can think about is it's that picture.
Oh my God.
I can't stop. It makes me giggle every time. I have every variant of it. I have the original, the zoomed in, I have like collected all of them. Like if coaches had trading cards, I would have that Sam Pittman picture signed
PSA
101.
Pittman
PSA
NFT.
10 1 of 1. Like it's gonna make me sad when Arkansas is bad this year.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they'll be slightly better. I really like Kalen Green.
Yeah. The
I
Vince
hate
Young
it.
of the Mountain West, who I said
Yeah.
last year.
he's upgraded a little bit. And I will say it's kind of funny looking at their key games because it essentially just looks like a Big 12 schedule from 2007. Oklahoma State, A&M, Texas, and Missouri. But no, I don't know. I hope they're good enough to save his job. I don't think they're going to be like good, like top 10 good, but you never know down there.
He's not getting fired. He's not going to get fired in the middle of the season. That's what I'm trying to say.
He's gonna get left out at the end of the
Yeah,
season.
I think
He
they're-
essentially was last year, and they said screw it, one more year.
They really like him. They really
Yeah.
like him. Like the administration loves him.
Yeah.
They want to do this in the most calm way possible. So he will be.
Right.
He is not going to be the first coach fired this year, even if Arkansas just falls off a cliff.
Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts on any SEC teams before we move on, guys? Close up the pod. No. Any takers?
I got one. Where is it? South Carolina. I like their their Rex Specs quarterback a lot.
He is damn good. Why is he so good in the college football game?
Because he's gonna be good. Like he's gonna be good. This team is just not good around him. He's gonna be fun to watch. He's gonna be like the better, like the more fun version of Diego Pavia because he's gonna
Don't
actually
you
be
say
able,
that.
because he's gonna
Speaking
be
of Diego
actually in
Pavia,
games.
too.
Yeah, he's gonna be able to compete in games. They're gonna murder my poor son Diego Pavia at Vanderbilt. They're just gonna absolutely dismantle that guy.
We even got Jerry Kell like up there too, like Vandy's
His
Vandy's stock
name
with
is
New Mexico
Lenore.
State guys. I don't know.
Lenore.
I'd like it if Vandy got one really good upset, but probably not. And then nothing on Levy. Just Jeff.
Levy's
Just
gonna be bad.
Jeff
That was a
sweeps.
bad hire.
Jeff sweeps
Under 4. Hit it.
Under
per
under,
game.
Under.
Oh, I thought we were talking about Jeff sweeps.
Oh, over.
No, yeah,
over.
under 4. Mississippi State's gonna be bad.
Jeff Levy definitely hopped on the sticks and saw in that college football video game how OP against the computer a jet sweep can be, and he's like, "This is my time to revive it."
It's like I feel so validated. This is incredible. Ty, any final thoughts on the SEC in 2024?
Lots of question marks, lots of disgusting teams, and lots of just exercises in branding. We didn't even get into, as Blake likes to talk about, the mouse and everything else. Keith in the chat brought up a very important question of if Texas had not beaten Bama last year, would they be talked about this much? Yes, they would, because it's all artificial. It's all the network has picked their storyline for the season, and they're throwing massive advertising behind it, from the commercials you see to covers on video games to memes that you see on social media that you think are organic. It is all artificial advertisement meant to manipulate your mind and your perception of things. Texas is that storyline. You'd be seeing them. There's so many just massive branding teams. Tennessee, absolutely. If they didn't have the marketing, they would be no more relevant than Baylor. Mizzou kind of cracked the code because no one cares about them, but they figured out how to win. So it's those are my thoughts. It's all marketing, except for OU, who is legitimate top 3 team, in spite of Jameson and Bobby's beliefs and Blake's, but he's a no you hater.
I need a SEC team bad. I need to pick one.
Come back home, buddy. We know.
I don't know. Do
Our
I lean
arms
into,
are open.
like see, I need one more bad season behind OU to then really come in and raise them like I did UNLV. Like I need that one more bad where I become the savior of the program.
Well, why don't you just embrace the hog?
Because Sam Pittman's not going to be there next year. Like that's the sad part. If Sam Pittman was in the first year of his deal with that picture out there, I would be embracing it like no other. But it might be Florida. It might be Florida too. I always come back to them. Anthony Richardson stole my heart. DJ
He's
Lagway
also going to get fired again, another program that's about to fire their head coach.
But DJ Lagway, I love he's going to be so good.
Blake, listen to me. Do not delay the inevitable. OU has an entire series of games against your most hated team. You will be rooting for OU in the future anyways. Don't delay it. Get on the train now.
Mm-hmm. Tough decisions.
Anyways, we'll see how that pans out. But boys, that's all we got for the SEC preview. And that's all we got for preview season. Because you know what happens this time next week. That's right, folks. If you've been following our podcast for a while, you know it is week 0. For most, it does not matter. It's a bunch of games, a bunch of teams you probably don't care about. But for us, it is the start of the proper weekend spread, meaning it's the start of our season-long pick'em contest. And boys, I am as excited as ever to get this one going on. The stakes are higher. The rules are different, but still more fun, still as fun as ever. It's going to be incredible. And it all starts next week. And I, for one, just could not be more excited to get this thing going. It is 13, 14, 15 weeks of madness. And yeah, it's going to be fun, boys.
Send in your 2 weeks notice right now to all of your wives and partners because it's time.
Oh yeah.
We're
locking in for the next couple Wednesdays and Tuesdays, depending on how everything works. But yeah, so that is our SEC preview. Thank you for sticking with us this long. If you're still here and 57 or 54 into the show, we'll see you next week to pick some games. Finally, at long last, let's get this thing going. But until then, we'll see you next time. Good luck out there.